Wir haben jetzt hier die Freude, Mark Basham, den CEO von Excelos, bei uns zu haben. Und ich würde jetzt switchen auf Englisch, weil wir haben einen englischen Keynote, englischen Gast. So, dann werden wir jetzt switchen auf Englisch. Hello, Mark. Now I've switched to English. We are very proud that you are here. Are you located in London right now in your home office?
I am indeed. So I confess I've been to our London office twice since March. So
okay.
It very much feels like the headquarters of Axelos now. I've actually met the executive team several times in my home over the course of the summer. So yes.
It's a very, very crazy times, but that is it's one part of your presentation. How can we manage these times and which role the best practices have? So I would say we can start with the presentation now. For the participants, if you have any questions, please write in your questions in the question area oder in German. Wenn Sie Fragen haben, können Sie die in Ihre Fragen-Area reinschreiben. Sie können die auch gerne auf Deutsch reinschreiben, dann werde ich sie übersetzen und dann können Sie alle Fragen loswerden. I only have said that they can do the questions also in German, so I will translate it for you.
Wonderful.
And then I would say, let us start. Thank you very much and have fun.
Entschuldigung. So good afternoon, everybody. It's a real pleasure. In fact, an honor for me to join you and to be part of the conference. I was there in person last year and at the ServeU conference, and it's nice to be attending, albeit virtually this year. For those of you that I've not yet met, my name is Mark Basham. I joined Axelos as CEO just over 2 years ago now. Immediately before Axelos, just a little bit about me, I had 9 years in the TIC sector, working for BSI. BSI is the UK equivalent of the TUV, so of TUV. I was a member of their ExCo and led their businesses across the Far East. I lived in the Far East for a number of years, across EMEA. I created their cybersecurity consulting practice and led their global product testing business. I did a number of different activities whilst I was there. The earlier part of my career, more than half of it, was in the tech sector, initially with Xerox, then with Dell and Fujitsu. I mention all that because this keynote is titled Crisis Recovery and Business Resilience, the Role of Best Practice. And I wanted to come clean and say, listen, I am no expert in this space. And if you are after in crisis recovery, I realize that now more than ever. If you're after a step-by-step guide about how to make things perfect, I might disappoint you this afternoon. But what I absolutely will promise you is to share my personal and very recent experience on how Axelos has reacted to the challenge of 2020 and some of the key strategies and tactics that we have deployed to help navigate through this, what I believe has been one of this most challenging of years, certainly the most challenging that I have ever experienced in my career. Now, you might not know us as a company. Some of you will, of course. We're a small business, just over 100 employees, based predominantly in London, although we do now have colleagues in North America and in the Far East. And actually, as a result of the pandemic, we're in very many more countries than we'd otherwise be, as members of our team have gone back to live in their homes with parents and so on for many different reasons. So actually, at the moment, we're very much more dispersed than we were previously when we were all based in the office in London. So whilst you might not know us as a company, you will almost certainly know our products. You use them in your workplaces to manage projects and programs, to manage your IT or enterprise services. And some of you provide consultancy or training based on our products. Our library of best practice publications draws on the collective experience of thousands of practitioners, trainers, consultants, managers, and leaders, and in turn continues to guide their decision-making and investment decisions. We operate in nearly every country on earth. So with our best practice frameworks being shared through training and consulting organizations, certified through our exams, and subsequently adopted in more than 190 countries now. It's this diversity of expertise that ensures the continued relevance and credibility of our frameworks. If we were all in a room together and I could see your faces now, I would ask you the question, hands up if you know what this chart is. I can't see any faces, and we're not in the same room. So instead of asking you, I'll tell you. This chart shows you the frequency of the use of the phrase unprecedented times over a 12-month period. So no huge prize for guessing what happened in March when the COVID hit. And in fact, obviously, it hit the globe slightly earlier, but unprecedented times, and the number of searches and the number of times it was searched and used and written online spiked in March. And certainly that's when I became very familiar with that phrase, as I'm sure you all will have done also. There is another famous phrase, the origin of which is very much debated. Have you heard this one? May you live in interesting times. May you live in interesting times. One theory is that it is of ancient Chinese origin and is both a curse and a blessing. So without question, 2020 has been a very interesting time. And whilst there have been some high points and I have to say some incredible learning opportunities, I find it very hard to see it as a blessing. It's been an incredibly difficult time, 2020. This year, more than any I've experienced, we've seen managers and leaders struggle with the rapid and at times forced pace of change. I wonder to what extent you recognize that in your own environments, just the pace of change and the challenge of the moment. There's an acronym to describe what managers and leaders and we all are dealing with. And I imagine you will have heard it before, but it's VUCA, V-U-C-A, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Volatile talks to different groups of people will react to your actions in different ways, sometimes positively, but sometimes negatively. Very hard to know which. Uncertain, we do not have the luxury of time, and decisions must be made at the moment with limited information. Complex, things are connected, and often we don't know how. Any action we take will change the environment. And this image here, it's a flock of birds, but it could also be flying, a school of fish. They'll suddenly change direction and shape, but for no apparent reason. Ambiguous. Even when we have the information we need, the overall meaning is still unclear. That's VUCA. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And it's very much the environment that we all find ourselves in at the moment. Whether you're a practitioner, a manager, or indeed a leader. But it's important to remember that it's not just you as managers and leaders, us as managers and leaders who make decisions in a VUCA world. It's really important to remember that our customers are also making decisions in this VUCA world. And how we can support them, engage with them, understand them is critical to our ongoing success. Now, in these times, of global pandemic, it's easy to overlook other huge environmental factors and disruptors. It's easy to become very myopic and focus just on COVID-19 and the global pandemic. But there are huge other environmental factors and disruptors. And by the way, I'm not just thinking of Brexit, though clearly that is playing on my mind, and I'm sure yours also at the moment. The so-called industrial revolutions are coming quicker and now have the potential to disrupt every aspect of the world we live in. We right now are in the so-called fourth industrial revolution, which brings the potential of new digital and cybernetic systems. How should we respond? In the face of such rapid disruption, effective service management is a critical capability that separates the leaders from the pack. But effective service management doesn't need heroes. It needs individuals and teams and organizations to come together and to help each other to succeed. And that's really what I want to focus on for the rest of this session. So, if we don't need heroes, what do we need? We want the best people, right? So who should we hire? Should we buy a rival? Should we buy a competitor? Should we call in the management consultants? Is it time for McKinsey? Well, let me ask you this. Who knows your business the best? Who knows your customers and their needs the best? Who knows your operational challenges the best? When I look in the mirror and I ask myself that question, I can tell you the answer is very clear. It's our teams at Axelos that know our business the best. Our teams know our customers and channels the best. Our team know our operational challenges the best. The people we work with know the best. The answer is in our organizations already. It's about unlocking it. So instead of going through lengthy and challenging mergers, or a new word for me, acqui-hires, so recruitment through acquisition, why not retrain or upskill your existing staff? That's what the fourth industrial revolution needs. We need to trust our staff, give them funding, give them the resources, the tools, the training, whatever it is they may need to succeed. Now, some managers and leaders might say, what we need right now is more process, more checks and balances, more control. I see this myself. This is especially likely during times of distress and challenge, times like right now. But I put it to you that more control can lead to more catastrophic failure. There's an expression called elephant paths, and it comes from this observation from tropical countries that elephants make their own paths. They ignore the paths that we create for them. As you can see in this picture, the lady in the red jacket is ignoring the well-paved and official path and is just cutting straight across using an informal path. In the workplace, this means that the more controls, the more hoops you make people jump through to get the job done, the more they will look for ways to bypass the official paths and find workarounds. I wonder, how many of you, and again, if we're in an auditorium, this would work much better, but how many of you use WhatsApp to stay connected with colleagues? I know I do. Is WhatsApp an official tool? It's certainly not in Axelos. Again, I say to you, trust your staff. Give them the tools, the training, the funding, and whatever it is they need to succeed, and then get out of the way. Now, speaking of interesting phrases, how many of you have used this phrase before? Delivered value. Delivered value. What we mean is is this. We've said what we were going to do, then we went away and we did it, and therefore, as a result of doing it, we've delivered value. I'll take Axelos and ITIL 4 as an example. We said we would update ITIL, and we then went off. We published 6 books and exams. We've delivered value, right? And in fact, we didn't. There was a huge amount of work involved in that, but we delivered value, right? Well, kind of. But what use was all that cost, all that risk, and all that effort if no one wanted to read those books and take those exams? In the service economy, it is important to understand that value is co-created between your company and your customers, between your company and your suppliers, and equally between your company and your employees. We move the conversation from delivering value, and this is the critical part, to co-creating value. Now look, we're facing a relentless barrage of new information, technologies, and products. But remember, products are but one component in a successful service organization. They may be the critical component that enable and co-create value, but there are others. And that leads to another question. What other components are there? Now, I make no apology for this slide, and indeed the next one, but they're the only 2 slides in this deck that I've lifted directly from our core guidance. ITIL 4 has a way of describing these other components or resources. We call this model the 4 dimensions of service management. Simply put, an organization needs the following to create and manage products and services that co-create value. It needs the right people and structures. It needs the right information and tools. It needs the right partners and suppliers, and it needs the right processes and procedures. And what about behaviors? How can we be sure that we behave and act in the best way we can? Well, in ITIL 4, we talk about the guiding principles. Many of you I know will be familiar with them, but for those of you not familiar with the guiding principles, here they are. There are 7 of them. Focus on value, think and work holistically, collaborate and promote visibility, start where you are, progress iteratively with feedback, optimize and automate, and then probably my personal favorite, keep it simple and practical. At Axelos, we use them to guide our decision-making and our behavior. Now, that's not to say that there's a checklist on a form that details these principles and asks people to fill out how they've met them. Nor do we have huge inspirational posters all over the walls in our office. No, these are part of our daily behavior. And what I want to do is talk about some of the examples, because these, I believe, are what underpin an organization's ability to drive through difficult times. So, focus on value. We asked ourselves, what creates value for our employees, our partners, and the organizations that use our products? How can we create more value for them and for Axelos as well? This thinking is, of course, integral to our product development work, but outside of that, we continue to promote our products to drive demand to our partners. We also have open and frequent lines of communication between colleagues, managers, and the executive leadership team, and invite all staff to shape and drive our employee engagement initiatives. Thinking and working holistically comes into play, especially when we put together and evaluate business cases. And of course, those business cases have to focus on value as well. But we ask people to consider multiple perspectives, including impact on internal teams and external SMEs, partners, and customers. We always look for opportunities to collaborate better. The current pandemic situation has meant we need to turn more to tools like Teams. I don't know if you've come across Miro, there are many others, to foster collaboration and promote visibility of work in progress. But let me be clear, the tool is merely a means to the end. Collaboration is very much a human behavior, and merely implementing a tool won't lead to collaboration. We have to foster and engender the culture and the behavior to make that happen. Start where you are is an interesting principle and was the forefront of our minds back in March. We were asking ourselves, what are the current business continuity policies? Are they fit for purpose? I have to say, it was a well-timed thought process. After we abruptly moved to remote working, we rapidly established that we could keep the business activity on track, essentially by virtualizing our standing processes and adopting some new tools. Far more challenging was how we would maintain and develop the Axelos culture and team morale that we as a business were so proud of, but also so dependent upon. We established a weekly town hall from the very first week in lockdown, actually, and this has become a fundamental element of maintaining our business tempo and culture. But there's always more to do. One of the challenges was how to recreate the social aspect of working in the office while working from home. That led to teams parties, to drop-ins, to quizzes, and new reward and recognition events. And most recently, in response to some changing habits, we're trialing a policy where people keep their cameras on during meetings. Sounds so silly, that, doesn't it? We always have had our cameras on in meetings, and what we realized was just recently people were starting not to turn them on all the time, and so we felt, no, let's introduce a policy to enforce people to have them on. Of course, it can't always be the case, but where possible, we have cameras on them. And that's a really nice segue to progress iteratively with feedback. None of these new policies are set in stone. They are all opportunities for us to learn and adjust. A policy can be created with all good intentions, but might lead to unwanted behavior. Managers in Axelos are constantly asking their teams how policies can be improved, and we frequently run an all-hands survey to solicit feedback. Actually, surveys have become an absolutely critical tool for us during this time. We are constantly asking for feedback from our team so that we can continue to improve everything that we do. Most recently, for example, employees expressed concern that they were always in meetings. I think this is a Zoom and a Teams challenge, isn't it? It's so easy just to literally get blocked from morning till evening. So they expressed concern they were always in meetings and they didn't have time to step away, have lunch, or even catch up on the backlog of work. So we've established a policy of, and it's so simple, but we've established a policy of not booking any internal meetings for a 30-minute slot in the middle of each day. So we've blocked in everybody's diaries 30 minutes and a random 2 hours on Wednesdays. So, and it's the same 2 hours in everybody's calendars, and it's the same 30 minutes in everybody's calendars. We'll revisit this policy in a month or so to see what impact it's had. The early signs are, as simple as it is, it's having a really positive impact on people's working day. That forced, not necessarily break, but that forced break from meetings, so people can walk away, they can get on with some work, they can do whatever, take some air, whatever it might be. The situation is always fluid and complex. We have to pivot and adjust constantly. So, as we moved into the first lockdown, we realized that we needed to ramp up the volume of content we produce to compensate for our inability to travel around the world to promote our products. So we invested in IT equipment and software, and tweak the procedures we were following. In 2020, we've launched our podcasts and YouTube live stream panel discussions, and ramped up on other media content production, and huge impact and take up. I feel as though it's been hugely successful. Does it replace getting out face to face? We will resume that activity, possibly not to quite the same extent, but we will absolutely continue this as well, because we are creating value as we do this. Now look, very little of any of this needed fancy equipment and tools. Some things did, and we invested where needed. But with most things, we asked ourselves how we can keep this as simple and practical as possible. Really good example. When we were trying to track who was sick or on holiday in the early days of the pandemic, I was particularly concerned in the early days, where we didn't have systems and routines in place, to know that people were all right. You know, I feel a sense of responsibility for everyone that works for me, and indeed their families. And I was concerned, because we weren't seeing people, we wouldn't know if they were unwell. So we just stuck a really simple spreadsheet up on Teams and asked people to fill it out every day. The spreadsheet, which became known as the daily register, it's rather like being in school and the teacher, everyone, became known as the daily register, evolved over time. And in October, we got to the point where, frankly, we felt we didn't need it anymore. So we stopped it. Simple sometimes works better than fancy or complicated tech. So we're really coming to the end now. We've covered a lot. I'd like to remember three things when you get back to, I would say, the office, your office, wherever that is, when you get back to work. First, trust your teams. You must earn their trust. But if you trust them, they will trust you. Second, empower your teams. Give them the tools, the resources, the training, and the freedom to get the job done. Of course, you as their leader or manager must set the ground rules. But once you've empowered them, get out of the way and let them get on with things. And lastly, embed common principles and values across your organization. Align your whole organization to those principles and values, but let each team apply them as they see fit. And if you can trust your teams, give them the resource and support needed, and align them in the right direction, then you're going to have a company and a business that can not only survive in the face of a crisis, but even thrive. I'm Mark Basham, and I'm proud to work at a company that lives these values. I'm proud to work at Axelos. Thank you very much indeed.
Mark, thank you very, very much. And it was very, very emotional statement what you give here. And I like really much what you said, that managers have to grade up fundamentals, have to grade up surroundings and an ecosystem, and then they have to go out of the way and let the team make their work. So that's, I think, a very strong statement. Thank you for that. We have two questions here, perhaps, which you can answer. One question is, which impact will the Brexit have on the Axelos products and the availability worldwide?
It's a good question, and I believe, and I think the way to answer, so listen, the simple answer is, I think very little impact. The analysis that we have done suggests that there'll be very little impact at all. As you know, we work very closely with a partner, with PeopleCert, who are based within the EU, and as a result, to be honest with you, I think we are very well insulated from the challenges. and the travails that Brexit will introduce. So as Axelos, I think we're going to be fairly. I think we're going to be. I hope. No, as Axelos, I think we're going to be fairly well removed, to be honest with you, from any of the challenges that Brexit introduces. There will be a few very small things, primarily interest rate, foreign exchange related. But our clients, I think, won't feel any impact at all. I'm very confident of that, to be honest with you. We are fortunate with our business model. We're a very lean organization, and we go to market with a very close and I think very strong partner network that we work well with. So I'm very comfortable that we will be unaffected. Of course, I live in hope that our glorious leaders will come to a solution, and Brexit won't impact anyone and any of our economies. But I'll leave that to them. We can only control what we control, and sadly, I can't impact that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your answer. Now we have another question. ITIL 4 is now fully released. All publications are released. When is ITIL 5 coming?
we have ITIL 4 is fully released, so it is all there, and there is no intention of an ITIL 5 in the near term. Now listen, the beauty of the structure of ITIL 4, the modular nature, means that there can be small iterative changes over time, and we can introduce new modules as and when required. It is so up to date, it is so in the moment that the feedback we're getting from adopters literally across the world in almost every country is sensational, actually. So there is ITIL 5 is not on the drawing board.
Okay, and the last question what I have here: are there a clear roadmap which additions, publications, or changes will come to service management in 2021? What is planned?
I think you have line of sight to everything that we're doing. There are two new modules that we're looking at introducing, which are really exciting during 2021. One looks at sustainability in IT. Mm-hmm. And there, I think there is something so middle of the year. So that will be a new, net new. So I think that will be really interesting. And of course, so relevant around this whole issue of environment, sustainability, carbon, and so on. IT is a huge impactor of that. So I think there's some interesting learning there. And then the other piece is around cloud. And cloud services. So we're looking at a module in that space as well that we would plan to get out towards the second half of the year. But all these are totally complementary to what is there already. Beyond that, we have a huge amount of focus in our project and program management portfolio. We've just launched a new MSP. Prince 2 Agile and Prince 2 continue to grow, and there's a lot of work being done around some other parts of that portfolio. So more to reveal next year, but all really exciting, and no great surprises for our partners. We've been, I think, messaging quite clearly now for a period of time. As you will well know, Mike, we were given some very clear feedback a few years ago. That our partners don't like surprises, and we've been working very hard to ensure that we don't give people surprises. That we work in real close partnership and harmony with all our partners, and indeed corporates actually. So a lot of what we do is research. So we're constantly reaching out to expert communities, to users, practitioners, consultants, training delivery partners to get the very latest input and feedback from the market, so that we can make sure that our frameworks are what the business world needs.
Great. Mark, thank you very much. I only can give the feedback back to you since Excelos is online with the services. All the experience what we as ATO have made is that you are doing what you are talking about, and that's very, very cool. And so thank you very much for the last years, and we are looking forward to the next years. And all what I can say now is stay healthy, please.
Yes.
Take care of yourself and your family and all of your team. And thank you very much that you give us here some insights. And we hopefully see you soon personally.
Well, listen, I would like nothing more. So I'd like to echo that back to you, to everybody at ServeU, and indeed all of the partners at the event. So it's been a real privilege to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. And yes, please stay healthy, everybody. Have a great end of year celebration, and let's make 2021 a fantastic year. I think we have reason to be optimistic for 2021. So let's embrace the optimism.
Yes, that's
Thank
a
you
cool
so much.
word for the end. Thank you very much. Have a good day and goodbye.
Goodbye now.
Ja, damit beenden wir diese Session. Vielen Dank für das Zuhören. Und wenn Sie noch Lust haben, um 17:45 Uhr machen wir noch ein kleines Wrap-up. Der Michael Kresse und ich zusammen. Also eine kleine Zusammenfassung. Dann sehen wir uns gleich noch in der Abschlusssession für heute. Dankeschön. Bis dann. Tschüss.